Hey guys, tonight we taking a trip to ancient Rome. But we not going to be visiting the Senate or admiring the Colosseum from a safe distance. We're going to explore what was on the menu for one of history's toughest athletes, the Gladiator. And I promise you would not want a reservation. The diet we're about to uncover is less about fine dining and more about functional, brutal, and mind-numbingly boring fuel. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It helps this little campfire of ours reach more people looking for a quiet story. And while you're at it, let me know in the comments what city you're listening from and what time it is for you. It is always a quiet thrill to see how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let us ease into tonight's test journey together, before your life becomes a nightmare of sand and steel. It is normal, or as normal as it can be for a legionary from a distant province, stationed near the heart of the sprawling, chaotic Roman world. Tonight is a rare night of leave, a brief respite from the discipline of the barracks. You find yourself in a bustling taberna, a smoky, noisy tavern packed with off-duty soldiers, merchants, and locals. The air is thick with the smell of cheap wine, roasting meat, and that uniquely Roman scent, a pungent, salty aroma you've come to associate with every meal. Durham. You sit at a rough wooden table, the terrataka cup of watered-down wine in your hand. This is the best meal you've had in months, laid out before you as a feast. By your standards, there is a round, flat loaf of coarse bread, perfect for tearing and sopping, a small bowl of dark, wrinkled olives glistening with oil, a wedge of hard, salty choupes cheese, and the centerpiece, the reason for the celebration, is a plate of roasted pork, fatty and succulent, seasoned with herbs you can't name. This is a world away from your daily military ration of panes, bread, and gruels, the thick, bland grain porridge that has fueled the legions for centuries. This is a core historical fact. The Roman diet, for most people, was simple and grain-based. But tonight, you have meat, a real luxury. As you eat, you listen to the cacophony around you. You don't understand all the rapid, city-slick Latin, but you catch snippets of gossip, complaints about taxes, boasts of romantic conquests. You take a piece of bread and dip it into a small bowl of the aforementioned garum. This is the ketchup of the ancient world, a fermented fish sauce that Romans put on everything. It is made by layering fish guts, blood, and whole small fish with salt and letting it ferment in the sun for months. The resulting liquid is strained and sold. It sounds challenging, but the flavor is a complex burst of salty, savory umami. It makes the plain bread taste like something special. You lean back, content. The wine is warming your belly. The food is rich. And for a moment, you feel a sense of peace. You think of your home in the forests of Gaul, a world away from this city of stone and noise. You are a good soldier. You've fought well for the eagle. Your future seems straightforward. Serve your term, receive your pension and a plot of land, and maybe, just maybe, make it back home. But your fate took a turn you never saw coming. Why you lay in this predicament is a murky, dangerous question. Perhaps you were part of a cohort whose loyalty was questioned. Perhaps you were in the wrong place during a political purge, your commander falling out of favor and taking his men down with him. Or perhaps it was something simpler, more personal, a gambling debt, a brawl with a well-connected citizen, a false accusation from a rival. The paths to condemnation were numerous and often unjust. Historians still debate the exact percentage of gladiators who were prisoners of war, condemned criminals, or slaves, versus those few who were desperate free men volunteering for a chance at fame and fortune. For you, the reason doesn't matter. The result is the same. Two figures appear at the door of the taberna. They are not soldiers. They are officials. Their faces impassive. Their movements efficient. They scan the room, and their eyes land on you. The noise in the tavern seems to quiet down. The men at the surrounding tables suddenly find their wine cups very interesting. The officials approach your table. One of them unrolls a scroll. He speaks your name. It sounds foreign and harsh in his crisp Roman accent. He reads the charge. Insubordination. Conspiracy. It doesn't matter which. The sentence is clear. Condemnation to the ludus. To the gladiator school. Your world shrinks to the size of the wooden table. The half-eaten pork suddenly looks greasy and unappetizing. Your blood runs cold. There is no trial, no appeal. The Roman state has made its decision. You are no longer a person. You are property. You are an investment. You are meat for the arena. They pull you to your feet as they lead you out of the war, lamplit taverned into the cool darkness of the street. The last thing you taste is the phantom flavor of salt and roasted pork on your tongue. It has the taste of a life that is already over. You don't know it yet, but it is the last decent meal you will have for a very, very long time. Your new diet will be designed not for pleasure, or even for comfort, but for a very specific and brutal purpose. The world outside the tavern is darkened and forgiving. Your brief moment of contentment is a bitter memory now. You lay roughly shackled, your hands bound in front of you with coarse rope that chafes your wrists. The two officials hand you over to a different kind of man, someone whose authority comes not from a scroll, but from the thick muscles in his arms and the scarred, emotional his look on his face. He is a slave trader, a procurer for the games, and he shoves you into the back of a covered cart with a half-dozen other miserable-looking men. The journey begins. Where you ray going? You don't know. All you know is that you ray moving away from the familiar world and down into a new, terrifying reality. The cart is dark, cramped, and smells of unwashed bodies and fear. You are no longer a soldier in the greatest army in the world. You are cargo, and your diet changes immediately. The rich, flavorful food of the taberna is a distant fantasy. Twice a day, the cart stops, and your guard throws chunks of food in for you and your fellow captives. There is no ceremony, no plates, no dignity. The food is what a master would feed to his least valuable property. The bread is not the fresh, soft loaf from last night. It has been as military is, the same hard, dry military bread you ray used to. But this is old. It is stale, possibly moldy, and so hard you have to gnaw at it like a dog with a bone. Breaking a tooth on it is a very real possibility. This is your staple. This is your fuel. Coarse, whole grain bread was the foundation of the Roman world. From the soldier on the march to the farmer in the field, it was calorie-dense and cheap, but the quality varied enormously. The bread you ray eating now is at the bottom of the scale, made from the cheapest flour, full of bran grit. It fills your stomach, but it offers no comfort, no pleasure. Water is just as bad. It is scooped from a bucket and given to you in a communal wooden ladle that everyone drinks from. The water is murky and tastes of mud and metal. It has likely been drawn from whatever roadside ditch or questionable stream was convenient. You drink it anyway. You thirst overriding your caution. You know the risks. You've seen fellow soldiers on campaign fall ill with dysentery, what they called prof. luviu ventris, a flux of the belly, from drinking bad water. But here, you have no choice. Dehydration is a more immediate threat than disease. This immediate and drastic shift in diet is a form of control, a way to begin the process of breaking you down. A well-fed man has energy. He has spirit. A man subsisting on stale bread and dirty water is perpetually tired. His body focused on the simple, all-consuming task of survival. Your world shrinks to these basic needs: a sip of water, a piece of bread, a moment of rest from the constant, jarring motion of the cart. Here is a small detail about travel and food in the Roman world that we often forget. Preservation was everything. Without refrigeration, transporting food over long distances was a huge challenge. Grains, like the wheat used for your terrible bread, were the perfect travel food because they were dry and relatively stable. Olives, which could be cured in salt or brine, were another staple. And of course, there was hard, salted cheese. These are the foods of necessity, the foods that can endure a long, hot journey without spoiling, the fresh fruits, vegetables, and meats that a wealthy Roman might enjoy in the city were an impossible luxury for anyone on the road, especially a prisoner. You try to talk to the other men in the cart. They are a mix of faces and accents. One is a towering German with pale hair, captured in a battle on the northern frontier. Another is a weary North African, a deserter from an auxiliary cohort. A third is a local boy, a petty thief from the city slums. You are all from different worlds, but you are united now by your shared, grim fate. You are all being taken to a ludus, a gladiator school. The German, who has been a captive longer than you, tells you what he has heard. He speaks of a place called Capua, home to the most famous schools, but he says there are others scattered all over the empire. Wherever there is an arena to feed, there is a historical debate about the conditions of transport for those condemned to the games. Were they treated with a minimum level of care, as valuable investments, or were they treated brutally, with the understanding that only the toughest would survive the journey anyway? The truth likely lies somewhere in between and probably depended heavily on the value of the cargo. A famous captured chieftain might be treated relatively well, while a common criminal or a nameless prisoner of war like yourself was utterly disposable. If you died in the cart from disease or malnutrition, it was no great loss to the Loniste, the owner of the Gladiator school. It just meant you weren't strong enough in the first place. After days that blur into a week, the cart finally rumbles to a halt. The door is thrown open, and you are blinded by the harsh sunlight. You are pulled out, your legs stiffened weak from the long confinement. You stumble and fall to your knees on the dusty ground. You look up, and you see it, a large, walled compound, a gate of heavy timber, and above the gate, a carved wooden sign depicting a sword and a trident. You can't read the words, but you don't need to. You have arrived. Your journey is over, but your ordeal is just beginning. The meager, terrible food of the road is about to be replaced by something even more specific, more monotonous, and more psychologically demoralizing. You are shoved through the heavy wooden gates, and they boom shut behind you. The world is now confined to the four high walls of the compound. This is the ludus, the gladiator school. It is not a place of learning in any sense you understand. It is a prison, a training camp, and a factory, and the product it manufactures is violent death. The first thing that hits you is the smell. It has a complex and deeply unpleasant assault on your senses. There is the sharp, acrid odor of stale sweat, clinging to the air from the hundreds of men who live and train here. There is the metallic scent of blood, faint but persistent, coming from the infirmary. There is the animal smell of the stables and the reek of the latrines. And underneath it all is another smell, a thick, cloying odor that you can't quite place yet. It is the smell of the kitchen, a smell that will soon become the backdrop to your entire existence. The smell of boiling grain. The layout of the ludus is stark and functional. It is built around a large, open training yard of packs and a miniature arena. Around this yard are the essential buildings. Alone, low barracks where the gladiators sleep. An armory, where the weapons are kept under lock and key. An infirmary, for patching up the wounded. And the kitchens and mess hall. The whole place is overseen by the laniste, the owner and head trainer, from a raised house that allows him to watch every corner of his domain. He is the king of this small, fertile kingdom. You and the other new arrivals are herded into the center of the yard. The lawn, his stay emerges from his house to inspect his new property. He is a formidable figure, a former gladiator himself, his body a roadmap of old scars. He walks around you, sizing you up like a butcher inspecting cattle. He checks your teeth, feels the muscles in your arms and legs, and looks for any sign of weakness or chronic illness. His gaze is cold and calculating. He is not looking at a man. He is looking at an investment. Will you you are Milo, a heavily armed fighter, or with your height, perhaps a Radiarius, with a net and trident. These are the calculations running through his mind. After the inspection, you are stripped of your old, tattered clothes. They are burned. Your past life is now officially gone. You are given a simple loincloth, a sub-league, a collar, which will be your only uniform. Your hair is shaved. This isn't just for hygiene. It is another part of the process of erasing your identity. You are no longer a Gaul, a German, or a Roman. You are a gladiator, a blank slate upon which the laniste will write anew. Violent identity. You are assigned to a cell in the barracks. It is not a room. It is a cage. A small, stone-walled space, barely big enough for two men to lie down, with a barred door. Your cellmate is a grim-faced Thracian who grunts a greeting and then ignores you. There is no privacy, no comfort. The bed is a simple wooden plank with a straw-stuffed mattress. As evening approaches, a bell rings. It is time for the evening meal. You are led into the mess hall. The long, low silenting room with rows of backless benches and rough wooden tables. The air is thick with the steam and the smell of the kitchens. You are handed a wooden bowl and a wooden spoon. A line of cook as assistants, slaves themselves, move along the tables, slapping a single laid LFUL of food into each bowl. You look down at your first meal as a gladiator. It is a thick, gray, lumpy porridge. It is still warm, and it smells of boiled barley and beans. There is nothing else. No bread, no olives, no cheese, just this mush. This is the infamous gladiator diet you have heard whispers about. It is bland, it is monotonous, and it looks utterly unappetizing. But you are starving. You lift the spoon and take your first bite. The taste is exactly what you expect. It is the taste of boiled grain. There is a slight nutty flavor from the barley, and the occasional soft lump of a fava bean. There is no salt, no herbs, no seasoning of any kind. It is sustenance in its most basic, unadorned form. You eat it quickly, your hunger overpowering your disgust. Around you, the other gladiators eat in a grim silence, their faces showing no emotion. This is not a social event. This is refueling. This meal is a cornerstone of your new life, and it is backed by a very specific, if strained, medical and training philosophy. The Romans were meticulous record keepers, and while no gladiator cookbook has survived, likely because it would have been a very short, very sad book, we know a surprising amount about their diet from ancient writers like Pliny and Galen, and from modern archaeological science. This diet was an accident or a sign of neglect. It was a deliberate, calculated regimen. There is a historical debate about the exact composition of this diet. Was it universally the same across all schools and all regions of the empire? Probably not. Local crops and availability would have played a role. But the core principle, the high carbohydrate, low meat diet, seems to have been consistent. Historians and archaeologists call it the gladiator diet. You just call it slop. As you finish the last of the grey mush, scraping your bowl clean, you feel a sense of despair settle over you. This is your life now. A stone cell, a sandy training yard, and above this, day in and day out. The meal is not just about nutrition. It is a psychological tool. It reminds you of your status. You are not here to enjoy life. You are here to perform a function. And this bland, joyless food is the fuel for that function. Nothing more, nothing less. The days in the ludus blend into a brutal, monotonous routine. You wake before dawn. You train until your muscles scream. You eat your bowl of mush. You sleep. You repeat. The food, once a source of despair, has become a simple fact of life. And you learn the name for the grain that forms the lumpy, bland core of every single meal. Barley. You and your fellow gladiators are, in essence, barley men. In fact, the Roman writer Pliny, the Elder, even referred to gladiators with the nickname hordearii, which literally translates to barley-eaters. This was meant as a compliment. It was a slightly derisive term, highlighting their low status, coarse diet, setting them apart from ordinary Romans who preferred wheat for their bread. For you, it is just the truth. Your life is fueled by barley. Why barley? The reasons are a mix of economics, logistics, and a very specific training philosophy. Firstly, barley was cheap. It was considered a lower-grade grain than wheat, often used as animal feed. For a long stay running a business with a high overhead, feeding and housing dozens of men, paying guards, maintaining equipment, keeping food costs down was essential. Feeding his gladiators cheap barley instead of more expensive wheat was a simple economic decision. Secondly, barley is a nutritional powerhouse. In its own way, it is packed with carbohydrates, providing the slow-release energy needed for long, grueling training sessions. It also contains a decent amount of fiber and essential minerals like magnesium and manganese. It is a hearty, functional grain for building a hearty, functional body. The Romans, without understanding the specific science of macronutrients, knew this from centuries of observation. They knew that a diet of whole grains could sustain a soldier on the march and a farmer in the fields, and it could sustain a gladiator in the training yard. So, your meals are a relentless rotation of barley-based dishes. In the morning, you might get a thick porridge, or pulse, made from cracked barley boiled in water. For the midday meal, it might be a thicker, stew-like concoction, with some fava beans or lentils thrown in to add a bit of texture and protein. The evening meal is often the same as the morning meal. Sometimes, the barley is served as a dense, heavy bread, but the porridge is more common. It is easier to make in huge quantities and easier to digest. You learn to distinguish the subtle, depressing variations. Some days the porridge is thinner. Some days it is thicker. Some days the beans are cooked to a soft mush. Some days they are still hard and chalky. These are the only culinary novelties in your life. The taste is always the same, bland, earthy, and utterly joyless. The scientific evidence for this diet is fascinating. In the 1992, archaeologists excavating a gladiator graveyard in Ephesus, in modern-day Turkey, were able to analyze the mineral content of the bones. What they found confirmed the ancient text. The bones of the gladiators showed extremely high levels of strontium, a mineral found in abundance in ash from burned plants. They also had a strontium to calcium ratio that was significantly different from that of the average Roman citizen buried nearby. This pointed to a diet overwhelmingly based on plants, particularly grains and legumes like barley and beans. This archaeological discovery was a huge breakthrough, providing hard, scientific proof for what historians had long suspected from written sources. But here's a quirky detail about eating so much barley. It is not great for your digestion. A diet so heavy in fiber and complex carbohydrates can lead to predictable side effects. The barracks would have been a very gassy, uncomfortable place. This is a less than glamorous aspect of gladiator life that the epic movies tend to leave out. The barley men were likely also very bloated and flatulent men. Colosseum and his trainers frame this diet as a virtue. They tell you it builds strength and endurance. Meat makes a man weak and sluggish. One of the trainers might shout as you struggle to lift a heavy wooden reining sword. The barley makes you strong. It makes you hard. This is part of the indoctrination. They take a necessity, a cheap, simple diet, and rebrand it as a core component of your elite training regimen. There is an ongoing historical discussion about the psychological impact of this enforced diet. Was it purely for physical reasons? Or was it also a tool of control? By denying you the pleasure and variety of normal food, the lawn is to constantly reinforce your lowly status. Food is a source of joy, culture, and community. Your food is none of those things. It is fuel. This culinary deprivation was another way to strip you of your humanity, to separate you from the outside world, and to make you more dependent on the rigid structure of the ludus. Your desire for a simple piece of fruit or a salty piece of cheese becomes a powerful, gnawing bait, a constant reminder of the freedom you have lost. You look down at your bowl of barley mush. It is the color of wet and it has the texture of mud. But you eat every last spoonful, because tomorrow you will train again. You will swing a sword until your arms feel like lead. You will run until your lungs burn. And to do that, you need the barley. You are a hordearii. It is not a title of honor, but it is what you are. You're a few weeks into your training, and your body is starting to change. You're getting stronger. Your muscles hardening from the relentless daily drills. But you're also getting softer. You notice a layer of fat beginning to accumulate over your newly forged muscles, especially around your torso. You look around at the veteran gladiators, the champions of the school, and you see the same thing. They are not the chiseled, perfectly defined athletes you might expect. They are thick, powerful men, with a noticeable layer of subcutaneous fat covering their frames. This isn't because they are out of shape. It is by design. Your high carbohydrate, barley-heavy diet is intentionally making you fat. This is one of the most surprising and counterintuitive aspects of the Gladiator-S regimen. In our modern world, we associate elite athletes with lean, low-fat bodies. But the Romans had a different, brutally practical philosophy. The goal of your diet wasn't to make you look good. It was to help you survive. The theory, as explained to you by one of the older trainers, is simple. A layer of fat acts as a cushion. It is a natural form of padding. In the arena, You are going to be hit with swords, tridents, and axes. A cut is inevitable, but if that cut only slices through a layer of fat, it is a superficial wound. It will bleed spectacularly, which is great for the crowd. The Romans loved the sight of blood, but it won't damage the crucial muscles, nerves, and organs underneath. A flesh wound to a fatty gladiator is much less likely to be fatal or debilitating than the same cut on a lean, weary man. That layer of fat could be the difference between walking out of the arena and being dragged out on a hook. So, you are being deliberately fattened up. The endless bowls of barley porridge, the beans, the bread, it is all part of a calculated strategy of carb loading for carnage. You are consuming a massive number of calories every day, far more than you are burning, even with the intense training. The excess is stored as a protective layer of adipose tissue. You are building your own armor, one bland, mushy spoonful at a time. This theory is supported by the ancient sources. Galen, a prominent Roman physician who actually served as a doctor at a gladiator school in Pergamum for a time, wrote extensively about their diet and physique. He described them as being fleshy and flabby, noting that their appearance was not considered ideal by standard Roman beauty standards, but was highly functional for their profession. The goal was durability, not aesthetics. This is a major point of historical understanding that overturns the popular Conan, the barbarian image of a gladiator. The chiseled abs and bulging, vein-covered biceps of Hollywood are a modern invention. The real gladiators were more like ancient versions of sumo wrestlers, or NFL linemen, incredibly powerful men carrying a significant amount of body mass. Their strength was hidden beneath a protective layer, making them tougher to disable or kill. But living with this body has its downsides. You feel heavy, sluggish at times. The extra weight puts more strain on your joints during the relentless training drills. And there is a psychological element to it. In the Roman world, where the elite prize to lean, disciplined physique, your soft, fleshy body is another marker of your low status. It is a slave body, built for a specific, brutal purpose, not the body of a free, civilized man. The science behind this is fascinating, and it is a topic of ongoing discussion among historians and sports scientists. The high-carb diet would have ensured that the gladiators' glycogen stores, the fuel for their muscles, were always topped up, giving them the explosive energy needed for short, intense bursts of combat. The fat layer provided protection. It was a remarkably sophisticated, if strange, system of sports nutrition, developed through centuries of trial and error. The Laniste who could produce the most durable, resilient fighters was the one who would be the most successful. So you continue to eat your barley. You feel the layer of fat on your belly thicken. You see it on the other man. It becomes a strange source of pride. It is your shield. It is your defense against the sharp edges of the world you now inhabit. You may not look like the statues of the gods in the temples, but those gods never had to face a trident in the hot sun of the arena. Your body is not a work of art. It is a piece of equipment, a tool for survival. And with every bowl of porridge, you are making that tool just a little bit tougher, a little bit harder to break. You are a barley-eater, and you are building a body designed to bleed without breaking, to be wounded without being killed. Your body is becoming a fortress of flesh and muscle, built on a foundation of barley and beans. You have the energy for training, and you have the protective layer of fat the lawn a desires. But something is missing. Your palate, what little is left of it, craves a different kind of taste. It craves salt. It craves savor in us. It craves meat. You watch from the training yard as the Laniste and his family eat their midday meal. The smells that waft from his house are a form of torture. You can smell roasting chicken, the scent of garlic and herbs, the rich aroma of a meat stew. It is a powerful, painful reminder of the culinary world you have been locked out of. Gladiators, as a rule, do not eat meat. The reasons for this are, once again, a mix of the practical and the philosophical. Meat was expensive. Providing daily rations of meat for over 100 men would have been a ruinous cost for the Laniste. Grains and legumes were simply far more economical. But there was also a belief, mentioned by writers like Seneca, that a meat-heavy diet made a man more aggressive and hot-blooded, but also sluggish and less disciplined. The ideal gladiator was a cool, enduring fighter, not a frenzied berserker. A plant-based diet was thought to promote this kind of stamina and resilience. So, your protein comes not from a juicy steak or a roasted leg of lamb, but from plants. Fava beans and lentils are the workhorses of your diet, boiled into near liquefaction within your daily porridge. They provide the essential amino acids needed to repair the muscle tissue you break down every day in training. It is functional, but it is deeply unsatisfying. But there is one source of savory, non-plant-based flavor in your diet. It is not meat, but it comes from an animal. It has that ubiquitous condiment of the Roman world, garum. A small amount of this potent, fermented fish sauce is sometimes mixed into your evening bowl of mush. You watch as the cook-ass helper comes to the table with a large clay amphora. He unplugs the top, and the pungent, fishy smell hits you from across the room. He doles out a tiny spoonful into each gladiator's bowl. It is a minuscule amount, but it transforms the meal. That one spoonful of salty, funky, fishy liquid spreads through the bland barley, providing a jolt of umami. That deep, savory flavor that you crave. It makes the unbearable, for a moment, bearable. The production of garum was a massive industry across the Roman Empire, with large-scale factories located in coastal cities from Spain to North Africa. The best, most expensive garum, known as garum sociorum, was made from mackerel and was clear and amber-colored, costing a fortune. What you're getting, of course, is the lowest grade. It is so thick, dark, sludgy liquid, likely made from the otherwise unusable scraps of the fishing industry. It is the bottom of the barrel, both literally and figuratively. Here is a quirky and debated detail about garum. Was it just a flavoring? Or was it also seen as a health supplement? Some historians argue that, being rich in protein and minerals from the fish, it was a valuable nutritional addition to a poor diet. It was also high in salt, which would have been crucial for men like you, who were sweating profusely for hours every day and needed to replenish their electrolytes. Others argue that it was primarily just a way to make incredibly bland food palatable enough to swallow. The truth is probably that it served both purposes. For you, it is not about health. It is about the brief, glorious explosion of flavor in a world of blandness. The absence of meat also created a strange social dynamic. In the Roman world, sharing meat was a sign of community, of celebration, of status. The grandest public festivals and private banquets revolved around the sacrifice and consumption of animals. By being denied meat, you are cut off from one of the fundamental social rituals of Roman life. It is another wall between you and the outside world. Sometimes, you dream of meat. You have vivid, waking fantasies of tearing into a piece of roasted pork, the kind you had on your last night of freedom. The craving can be a physical ache. You see a rat's curry across the corner of the barracks, and for a fleeting, shameful moment, You wonder what it would taste like. This is what the diet does to you. It reduces your desires to their most primitive form. The larynx knows this. The craving for meat is another lever of control. On very rare occasions, perhaps to celebrate a major victory for the school, a small amount of boiled, sinewy meat might be added to the stew. It is a momentous event. The men devour it in a near frenzy. The memory of that taste has to last you for months. It is a calculated indulgence, a reminder of what you are missing, a way to keep you hungry, both literally and figuratively. For now, you must be content with your beans and the precious, pungent spoonful of rotten fish sauce that makes them taste, for a fleeting moment, like something other than despair. Your body is constantly aching. Every muscle is sore from the grueling training, and you feel a deep, resonant pain in your bones. You see other men limping, nursing injuries, their bodies breaking down under the relentless strain. The larynx can't afford to have his investments crumble, so he has another dietary trick up his sleeve, another strange concoction to supplement your barley-based regimen. After the evening training session, bruised and exhausted, you don't go straight to the mess hall. Instead, you and the other gladiators are handed a cup of a murky, grayish-white liquid. It is thin, watery, and has a slightly bitter, jaggy taste. You can feel a fine grit in it as you swallow. It is not pleasant, but you drink it down without question. This is your daily dose of medicine, your bone-strengthening elixir. It is a drink made from water mixed with ash. Yes, specifically, the ash of burned plants, and sometimes even charred bones. This might sound like some bizarre form of punishment or folk magic, but it was based on a sound, if intuitive, understanding of physiology. The Roman doctors and trainers knew that gladiators suffered from frequent bone injuries, fractures, breaks, and stress from the constant impact of training and combat. They also knew, through observation, that certain substances seem to help make bones stronger and heal faster. Your diet, while rich in carbohydrates, is critically lacking in one essential mineral for bone health: calcium. Grains like barley contain some calcium, but not nearly enough to support the extreme demands you are placing on your skeletal system. Meat and dairy, the primary sources of calcium in a typical Roman diet, are absent from yours. Your body is in a state of calcium deficiency, and your bones are paying the price. The ash drink was the Romans' ingenious, if unappetizing, solution. Plant ash is incredibly rich in minerals, particularly calcium. When you burn a plant, the organic matter disappears, but the inorganic minerals are left behind in a concentrated form. By drinking a slurry of water and ash, you are ingesting a massive, readily absorbable dose of calcium. You are, in essence, drinking a primitive version of a modern calcium supplement. The archaeological evidence from the Gladiator graveyard in Ephesus provides stunning confirmation of this practice. As mentioned before, the chemical analysis of the gladiators' bones revealed incredibly high levels of strontium, but also showed that their calcium levels were comparable to those of ordinary citizens, despite eating almost no dairy or meat. The only plausible explanation is that they were supplementing their diet with a high calcium, plant-based source. The ash drink fits this evidence perfectly. This is a case where modern science has been able to prove a strange historical practice that might have otherwise seemed like a myth. So, every evening, you choke down your gritty, shaky cup of ash water. It is another joyless, medicinal part of your routine. You can feel it coating your teeth, a fine powder that you have to wash down with another gulp of water. There is no flavor to enjoy. no refreshment to be had. It is purely functional. There is an ongoing historical debate about the exact recipe for this drink. What kind of plants were burned? Was it just wood ash from the kitchen fires? Or were specific medicinal plants chosen for their properties? Some ancient texts hint at the use of certain herbs and bone, suggesting a more complex pharmacological preparation. Was it a carefully crafted supplement, or just a crude way of getting minerals into the body? The precise details are lost to history, but the fundamental principle remains. The drink also serves as a constant reminder of your fragility, the fact that you need a special, bizarre potion just to keep your bones from shattering highlights the unnatural stresses of your profession. A normal man does not need to drink it, but you are not a normal man. You are a gladiator, a highly specialized athlete whose body is being pushed far beyond its natural limits. You think about the strange chemistry of your body. It is being fueled by barley to create a protective layer of fat. It is being supplemented with rotten fish sauce for flavor and salt. And now, it is being fortified with ash to keep your skeleton from collapsing. You are a walking experiment in sports nutrition, a body engineered for the arena. As you head to the mess hall for your evening bowl of barley porridge, the bitter, mineral taste of the ash drink still lingers in your mouth. It is the taste of artificial strength, the taste of a body being held together by strange and desperate measures. It is one more unnatural element in a life that is a constant fight against the natural consequences of violence and deprivation. In the corner of the training yard, there is a small, relatively clean building, the barley-eaters, or infirmary. This is the domain of the camp medicus, the doctor. You try to avoid this place at all costs, because a visit usually means you are seriously injured. But the doctor's influence extends far beyond the walls of his infirmary. He is not just a healer of wounds. He is the architect and enforcer of your entire dietary regimen. The medicus at your ludus is a man named barley-eaters. He is a Greek, like many of the most respected physicians in the Roman world. He is highly educated, having studied at the great medical schools of Alexandria or Pergamum. He is quiet, observant, and carries an air of detached, scientific authority. He is not your friend. He is an employee of the Laniste, and his primary job is to protect the investment. Your body is that investment. Barley-eaters is a frequent presence in the kitchens and the mess hall. You see him inspecting the quality of the barley, checking the freshness of the beans, and overseeing the preparation of the ash drink. He is a grim nutritionist, ensuring that the Lanaiste's dietary rules are followed to the letter. He understands, better than anyone, the philosophy behind the diet. He knows that the high-carb regimen builds the protective flesh, and that the ash drink fortifies the bones. Your health is his science project. This is a key historical point. The doctors who worked in gladiator schools were some of the most experienced trauma surgeons and sports physicians of the ancient world. A physician like Galen, who famously worked at a ludus before becoming the personal doctor to several Roman emperors, used his time there to learn an incredible amount about anatomy, surgery, and dietetics. The constant parade of wounded bodies provided him with a unique, if gruesome, opportunity for hands-on medical research. He dissected animals to understand human anatomy. Human dissection was largely taboo, and pioneered new surgical techniques on the broken bodies of gladiators. When you do get injured, a pulled muscle, a sprained ankle, a cut from a training weapon, you report to barley-eaters. His approach to medicine is pragmatic and unsentimental. He examines your injury with a cold, professional eye. His treatments are a mix of sophisticated medical knowledge and practical, sometimes brutal, remedies. A deep cut will be stitched with a neatness that is surprising, using fine needles and thread made from sinew. A broken bone will be set with a painful precision and splinted with wooden linen bandages. But diet is a key part of his treatment plan. If you are injured, your rations might be adjusted. He might prescribe specific poultices made from herbs and, you guessed it, barley paste, to reduce swelling. He might increase the potency of your ash string to promote bone healing. He will absolutely forbid you from eating anything that is not on his approved list. He believes that the wrong foods can cause inflammation, slow down healing, and upset the delicate balance of the humors in your body. The ancient medical theory that health depended on the balance of four fluids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. He rests a specific and fascinating detail that comes from Gale and Esode writings. He put his gladiators on a very strict regimen to prevent their bodies from becoming too moist or plethora, which he believed led to poorer performance and slower healing. He was a firm believer in the barley and bean diet, seeing it as the perfect way to build a strong, resilient, but not overly wet body. He would have viewed a rich, meaty, fatty diet as a form of poison for his athletes. The debate among historians is whether these theories were purely based on the classical humoral theory, or if they were also a result of direct, practical observation of what actually worked to keep gladiators alive and fighting. It was likely a combination of both, ancient theory reinforced by real-world evidence. The doctor is also the one who decides when you are fit to train again. This can be a source of tension. You might feel you need more time to recover, but LYCNS, under pressure from the lawn estate to get a valuable asset back in the yard, might declare you fit before you feel ready. His loyalty is to the school, not to your personal comfort. He is there to keep the machinery of the ludus running, and you are a cog in that machine. So you come to view the medicus with a mixture of respect and fear. You respect his skill. You've seen him save men from wounds that looked fatal. But you also fear his cold, detached power over your body. He is the master of your flesh, the one who dictates what goes into it and how it is repaired. He is the high priest of the cult of barley, the enforcer of the bland, monotonous diet that shapes your existence. His presence is a constant reminder that your body is not your own. It belongs to the Larn estate, and the doctor is its meticulous, unforgiving mechanic. The sun beats down on the sand of the training yard, turning it into a hot, dusty griddle. The morning meal, your usual bowl of barley porridge, sits like a heavy lump in your stomach. Now, the real work begins. You are about to spend the next several hours in a state of brutal physical exertion, and you have to do it on a stomach full of little more than boiled grains and water. The training, or exercitium, is relentless and scientifically designed to break you down and build you back up as a fighting machine. You start with conditioning. You run endless laps around the yard until your lungs feel like they ray on fire. You do push-ups, squats, and lifting exercises, not with iron weights, but with heavy stones or logs. The goal is to build functional, whole body strength and stamina. Then you move on to weapons practice. As a new recruit, you are given a rudis, a heavy wooden sword, and a wicker shield. You are paired with a trainer, a veteran gladiator called a doctor, who puts you through endless drills, or prolu-SIO. You practice footwork, moving forwards, backwards, side to side, until the patterns are burned into your muscle memory. You practice sword strokes against a palace, a thick wooden stake driven into the ground, a silent opponent that never tires. You swing your heavy wooden sword again and again and again, until your arm feels like a dead weight and your shoulder is a single, screaming knot of pain. All of this is fueled by barley, and you can feel the limitations of your diet. The carbohydrates give you a solid base of energy, but you lack the explosive, fast-twitch power that you imagine a meat eater might have. There is a certain sluggishness, a heaviness that you have to fight through every single day. The porridge in your belly feels like a poor substitute for the kind of high-octane fuel you feel you need. You watch the veteran gladiators, the champions of the scroll. They move with a grace and power that seems impossible. They train with real, though blunted, weapons. Their mock battles a terrifying dance of skill and speed. How do they do it? How do they maintain that level of performance on the same bland diet as you? The answer is adaptation. Their bodies have, over years, become incredibly efficient at converting the simple fuel of grains and beans into the complex violence of the arena. They have learned to operate at peak performance within the strict limitations of their diet. This relationship between a restricted diet and extreme physical performance is a topic historians and nutritionists find fascinating. Can a human body truly perform at an elite athletic level on a low-protein, high-carb, plant-based diet? The evidence of the gladiators suggests that, yes, it can, but it required a tremendous amount of physical and mental conditioning. The body had to be forced to adapt. This challenges many modern assumptions about sports nutrition, which often emphasize high levels of animal protein. The gladiators are a powerful, if grim, historical case study in the potential of plant-based athletic performance. But the psychological toll is immense. As you gasped for breath, leaning on your shield, sweat stinging your eyes, the thought of a simple piece of roasted meat can be a maddening distraction. The smell of baking bread from a nearby civilian house can make your stomach twist with a hunger that has nothing to do with calories and everything to do with desire. This constant, low-level craving is a mental battle you have to fight alongside the physical one. Here is a small, cruel detail of the training. The trainers know you are hungry for more than just barley. They use it against you. A particularly good performance in the yard might be rewarded not with praise, but with a single, precious fig. A well-executed sword combination might turn you a handful of dried dates. These small, sweet rewards are explosions of flavor in your bland world. They are also powerful tools of manipulation. The trainers keep you desperate for these little tastes of pleasure, making you work harder, push further, all for the fleeting sweetness of a piece of fruit. The training session ends in the late afternoon. You are covered in a thick layer of sweat and sand. Your muscles tremble with exhaustion. Your body is screaming for fuel, for protein to repair the damage you've just inflicted on it. And you know what is coming. Another bowl of barley and bean mush. There is no recovery shake, no protein bar, just the same lumpy, gray porridge. You eat it mechanically, your body too tired to even register the blandness. You are caught in a brutal cycle. The food gives you just enough energy to endure the training. The training makes you just desperate enough to eat the food. It is a closed system, a perfect, self-sustaining loop of deprivation and exertion. And tomorrow, you will do it all over again. You've been in ludus for several months now. You've survived the initial shock. Your body has hardened, and you've started to understand the complex social hierarchy of this brutal place. The ludus is a pyramid, with the laniste at the very top and new recruits like you at the bottom. And you learn quickly that your rank, your status within this pyramid, is reflected in everything, including the food you eat. It has a subtle difference, one you wouldn't notice at first, but now you see it clearly. At the evening meal, you watch the Primus Palace, the top-ranked gladiator in the school. He is a champion, a veteran of dozens of fights. A man who has survived and won time and time again. He sits at the head of a table, a place of honor. When the cooks come around with a large pot of barley porridge, they stop before him. The head cook himself gives the champion his portion, and his ladle FUL seems just a little bit bigger. It has a little thicker, maybe with a few more beans in it. This is the reality of the Gladiator's mess hall. While everyone eats the same basic, monotonous diet, there are tiny gradations of privilege. A-star gladiator, a man who brings fame and fortune to the school, is a more valuable asset, and he is treated as such. His slightly larger portion is a public acknowledgement of his status. It is a sign to everyone else in the room. This man is important. The rewards can be more than just an extra spoonful of mush. A victorious gladiator returning from the games might be given a small loaf of better quality bread, made with actual wheat instead of barley. He might receive a small flask of wine that hasn't been watered down. These are not grand feasts. They are tiny, symbolic gestures. But in a world of profound deprivation, these small tokens are immensely powerful. They are a taste of a better life, a life you can only achieve through success in the arena. This system of food-based rewards is a key tool for the ludus. It creates competition, not just in the training yard, but in the mess hall. You find yourself watching the portions of the man next to you, comparing his bowl to yours. It fosters a sense of jealousy and ambition. You want that extra spoonful. You want that better bread. And the only way to get it is to climb the ranks, to become a better, more successful fighter. The ludus is manipulating your most basic instinct, hunger, to motivate you to become a more effective killer. There is a fascinating historical debate about the extent of these dietary privileges. Were some star gladiators allowed a more varied diet, perhaps even including meat, on a regular basis? The ancient sources are ambiguous. Some accounts hint at special diets for champions, while the overall picture remains one of vegetarian austerity. The archaeological evidence from the Ephesus graveyard doesn't show a distinct dietary pattern for individuals who might have been champions, based on the number of healed wounds they had. This suggests that even for the top stars, the core diet likely remained the same: barley and beans. The rewards were probably small, occasional, and more symbolic than nutritionally significant. Here is a peculiar detail of this food hierarchy. It could also work in reverse. A gladiator who performed poorly in training, who showed fear, or who broke a rule, could be punished by having his rations reduced. A smaller bowl of porridge, or a meal missed entirely, was a common and effective form of discipline. It was a physical and psychological punishment, weakening the body and reinforcing the absolute power of the ludus. Your very survival depended on his goodwill, and that goodwill was measured out in spoonfuls of barley. You also learn that there is a black market for food within the ludus. A guard might be bribed to smuggle in a piece of fruit or a chunk of cheese. A cook's assistant might be convinced to skim a little extra from the pot. These transactions are risky. If caught, both the gladiator and the supplier would be severely punished. But the craving for a different taste, for a small moment of pleasure, is so strong that some men are willing to take that risk. A single apple could be a treasured possession, eaten in secret in the darkness of your cell. The crisp, sweet flavor a shocking contrast to the daily mush. As you eat your standard tissue bowl of porridge, you watch the primus palace at his table. He eats his slightly larger portion with a quiet dignity. He has earned it. He has bled for it. His status gives him a few more beans, a little more gruel. It is a pathetic reward for a life of constant violence and peril. But in the closed world of the ludus, it is everything. It is the prize you're all fighting for, one bowl of barley at a time. The diet is taking its toll, not just on your morale, but on a part of your body you never thought much about, your teeth. One morning, you wake up with a dull, persistent ache in your jaw. You probe with your tongue and feel it. A sharp, crumbling edge on one of your molars. A cavity. And you know, with a sinking feeling, that this is just the beginning. You look around the barracks and the training yard, and you start to notice the mouths of your fellow gladiators. The younger men, the new recruits, still have full sets of teeth. But the veterans, the men who have been here for years, are a different story. Their smiles are full of gaps. Their teeth are worn down, stained, and chipped. Many of them are missing several teeth, giving their faces a sunken, aged look. You realize that a strong body and rotten teeth are the paradoxical trademarks of a long-serving gladiator. This is a direct and brutal consequence of your diet. While the high-carbohydrate regimen builds up your body, it is a disaster for your dental health. The barley porridge you eat for every meal is soft, sticky, and full of fermentable carbohydrates. It clings to your teeth, creating the perfect breeding ground for the bacteria that cause tooth decay. Every meal is a plaque-generating event. Compounding the problem is the near-total lack of dental hygiene. There are no toothbrushes, no floss. You might occasionally try to clean your teeth by chewing on a fiber stick or rubbing them with a piece of rough linen and some salt. But it is a losing battle against the constant onslaught of sugary starches. The concept of preventative dental care is non-existent. The pain in your tooth gets worse. It goes from a dull ache to a sharp, stabbing throb that makes it difficult to concentrate during training. Chewing on that side of your mouth is agony. You try to hide it, because showing any weakness is dangerous in the ludus. But the pain becomes all-consuming. Eventually, you have no choice but to go to the medicus, lycanus. He examines your mouth with the same detached curiosity he shows for a sword cut. Brr, caries dentium, he says, using the clinical Latin term, tooth decay. He taps the offending tooth with a metal instrument, and a jolt of pure agony shoots through your skull. He nods. His diagnosis is simple. The tooth is rotten. It must come out. The procedure is exactly as barbaric as you feared. There is no anesthetic, other than a large swig of cheap, raw wine that he gives you to steady the nerves. He doesn't have a dentist's delicate tools. He has a pair of heavy, bronze pliers that look like they belong in a blacksmith's workshop. Two burly assistants hold you down in a chair. Lycanus tells you to open your mouth, inserts the cold metal pliers, and gets a grip on the rotten tooth. Then he pulls. It has a sensation of unbelievable, crushing pressure and blinding white pain. You hear a sickening crack as the root breaks. For a moment, you think your jaw is going to shatter. Then, with a final, brutal wrench, the tooth is out. Lycanus holds it up for inspection. A bloody, jagged mess in the jaws of his pliers. Your mouth is full of the coppery taste of blood. The assistants let you go, and you sit there, shaking and sweating. The empty socket in your gum throbbing with a new kind of pain. This grim reality is confirmed by the archaeological record. The same skeletons from the Ephesus Gladiator graveyard that told us about their diet also tell us about their dental health. The remains show an extremely high rate of tooth decay, abscesses, and tooth loss, far higher than the general population of the time. This provides a direct physical link between the hordearii diet and its predictable, painful consequences. It is a classic example of what scientists call the dentist's dilemma, a diet that can sustain a strong body can simultaneously destroy the teeth. So I was NT more done to prevent this. The historical consensus is that dental health simply was NT a priority. In a world where a man's life expectancy was measured in months, not years, and where the daily threat was a sword to the gut, a rotten tooth was considered a minor, if painful, inconvenience. The Laniste and the medicus were concerned with keeping your arms strong and your legs moving. Your smile was irrelevant. A gladiator didn't need to look good. He needed to be able to fight. A man could kill effectively with a mouth full of rotten stumps. As you walk back to the barracks, your jaw throbbing, you feel a new kind of despair. It is one thing to endure the blandness of the food. It is another to feel your own body slowly rotting from the inside out as a direct result of it. The diet that is supposed to be keeping you alive is also, piece by piece, making you fall apart. It is yet another cruel paradox in a life that is full of them. The gnawing ache in your jaw from the tooth extraction eventually fades, but it is replaced by a different kind of hunger. It is a desperate, almost pathological craving for something other than the eternal barley mush. Your mind starts to wander, to scheme. You watch the world outside the training yard with a new, predatory focus. You start to weigh the risks and rewards of supplementing your diet through illicit means. The most tempting targets are in the kitchen. The cooks are slaves, just like many of the gladiators. But they have access to the Laniste private food stores. You see them carrying crates of vegetables for the master's table. You smell the bread they bake for the guards. The temptation to try and steal something is immense. But the kitchens are heavily guarded. The head cook is a trusted servant of the Laniste, and he watches his supplies like a dragon guarding its hoard. The penalty for stealing food is severe. A flogging is the least of it. I repeated, offense could get you sold off to the mines. A fate even worse than the arena. So you turn your attention to other, less direct sources. The ludus is a self-contained world, but it is not hermetically sealed. Delivery carts come and go, bringing supplies. Sometimes, a crate of fruit or vegetables might be left unattended for a few moments. A lightning-fast snatch and grab could yield a precious apple or a handful of onions. The risk is high. If a guard sees you, the consequences will be immediate and painful, but the potential reward, the explosion of crisp, sweet flavor from an apple, feels almost worth it. You also begin to notice the wild things that live within the cracks of your prison. A small, scraggly fig tree grows in a forgotten corner of the compound, near the latrines. Its fruit is small and often worm-eaten, but it is fruit. You watch it ripen, your mouth watering. The problem is, everyone else has noticed it too. There is an unspoken, tense competition for those figs. You have to be sneaky, to time your visit perfectly, to grab one or two before they are all gone. A single, dusty, slightly too ripe fig, eaten in secret, can feel like the most luxurious feast you have ever had. This act of foraging, of finding sustenance outside the officially sanctioned diet, was likely a common, if unrecorded, part of gladiator life. The grounds of a ludus would have been home to edible weeds, snails after a rain, or even small lizards. For men pushed to the brink of culinary despair, anything could become a food source. This is a part of their daily life that the grand histories and even the scientific analyses of bone chemistry can't capture. Dismir, desperate acts of individuals trying to reclaim a tiny piece of control over their own bodies. Here is a historical point that is still debated. How much interaction did gladiators have with the outside world? And could this have been a source of better food? Some ludi were located in the heart of cities, and it is possible that gladiators had limited, supervised contact with local merchants or admirers. A star gladiator might have a wealthy patron who could send him gifts of food. However, this would have been the exception, not the rule. For most, the walls of the school were the edges of their world. The Laniste had a vested interest in keeping his fighters isolated, independent, and allowing uncontrolled access to outside food would undermine his entire system of dietary control. The temptation can lead to dangerous situations. You might see a vendor escort passing by on the road outside a low section of the wall. He is selling sausages. They're fatty, spicy smell driving you half mad. You might try to trade something for one. Perhaps a small piece of leather you resave. Or you might offer to perform a feat of strength. But this interaction is forbidden. It opens you up to blackmail. The vendor could report you to the guards. A fellow gladiator, jealous of your prize, could inform on you. The simple act of eating a sausage could lead to a flogging. Every bite of forbidden food comes with a side of paranoia. You are constantly doing a risk-reward calculation. Is the momentary pleasure of a stolen piece of cheese worth the certainty of a painful punishment if you are caught? Most of the time, the answer is no. You are a disciplined soldier, and you have been trained to follow orders. You eat your barley. You drink your ash water. You suppress the cravings. It is the safest path. But sometimes, the hunger for a different taste, for a memory of your old life, becomes overwhelming. One evening, you manage to trade a small, carved wooden figure you've been secretly whittling to a sympathetic stable hand. In return, he gives you a hard-boiled egg. You cradle it in your hand like a jewel. Later, in the darkness of your cell, you peel it slowly. You sprinkle it with a pinch of salt you've managed to save from a time the porridge was accidentally over-seasoned. You eat it in tiny, deliberate bites, making the experience last as long as possible. The firm, savory yolk, the salty white, it is the most delicious thing you have tasted in a year. It is a small, secret victory. It is a reminder that even in this tightly controlled world, there is still a tiny space for rebellion, one forbidden mouthful at a time. The daily routine grinds on. The physical exhaustion is a constant companion, but you are also becoming aware of a different kind of weariness. It is a mental fatigue, a slow erosion of your spirit, and you are starting to realize that the food, or lack thereof, is a central part of this psychological warfare. The monotonous diet is not just a matter of economics or nutritional theory. It is a deliberate tool the Laniste uses to break your will. Think about what food means in the world you came from. It is tied to every important moment of life. There are feast days, religious celebrations, family dinners, harvest festivals. Food is a way to mark time, to build community, to express joy. A good meal is a source of pleasure, a small, daily affirmation of life as goodness. In the ludus, all of that is stripped away. Food is completely divorced from pleasure. Mealtimes are not social gatherings. They are silent. Functional refueling stops. The food itself is bland, colorless, and unchanging. There is nothing to look forward to. Tuesday as much is the same as Thursday as much. Next month as much will be the same as this month as. This relentless monotony has a powerful psychological effect. It creates a sense of hopelessness, a feeling that you are trapped in an endless, gray loop. When you have nothing to look forward to, no small pleasures to anticipate, it becomes harder to maintain your morale. The joyless diet grinds you down, making you more docile, more compliant. A man who has forgotten the taste of good food is a man who is easier to control. This is a classic technique of institutional control. seen in prisons, military boot camps, and other total institutions throughout history. By controlling the diet, the authorities control a fundamental aspect of the inmates' lives, reinforcing their powerlessness. The food becomes a symbol of your captivity. Every spoonful of barley mush is a reminder that you are not free, that your body and its most basic needs are subject to the will of another. Historians and sociologists who study these environments call this process mortification of the self. It is the systematic stripping away of an individual's identity and autonomy. Your shaved head, your uniform loincloth, your cell, and your monotonous diet are all part of this process. They are designed to erase the person you were and remold you into a gladiator, a creature that exists only to serve the needs of the arena. You see the effects of this on the men around you. Some become sullen and withdrawn, eating their food with a dead-eyed resignation. Others become obsessed, talking endlessly about the meals they used to eat, their descriptions of roasted meats and sweet cakes becoming a form of self-torture. A few try to rebel, refusing to eat, but this is a short-lived protest. The honesty is simple, brutal ways of dealing with a hunger strike. No work, no food is the rule, and a man who doesn't eat will quickly become too weak to train, making him useless and disposable. Here is a small but telling detail. The lack of variety in the diet also dead in your senses. When every meal tastes the same, your palate loses its sensitivity. The world becomes a less flavorful place. This sensory deprivation contributes to the overall feeling of detachment and apathy. You are being conditioned to expect nothing, to desire nothing. The Laniste is a master of this psychological game. He knows that breaking a man's spirit is just as important as building his body. A gladiator who fights out of pure, broken obedience is more reliable than one who fights with a heart full of hope or rebellion. Hope is unpredictable. Obedience is not. There is some debate among scholars about the degree to which this psychological manipulation was a conscious, articulated strategy versus an intuitive practice. Did a Laniste sit down and theorize about using food to crush morale? Probably not in those abstract terms, but through generations of experience. The operators of these schools learned what worked. They learned that a simple, repetitive, joyless diet produced compliant, functional fighters. It was a system perfected through brutal, real-world application. So use it in the mess hall. The same wooden bowl in your hands, the same gray mush staring up at you. You understand now that it is more than just food. It is a weapon being used against you. It is a slow-acting poison for the soul. The blandness is not an absence of flavor. It is the presence of control. And as you lift the spoon to your mouth, you are swallowing another dose of your own subjugation. The battle for your life will be fought in the arena, but the battle for your soul is being fought right here, at the bottom of a bowl of barley. You have been chosen. After months of grueling training, the Laniste has deemed you ready. Your name is on the list for the upcoming Monera. The games. A thrill of terror and a flicker of excitement run through you. This is it. This is the moment your entire existence in the ludus has been building towards. The night before you are to be transported to the city arena. Something extraordinary happens. It is called the Cena Libera, the free dinner. It is, for all intents and purposes, the Last Supper. You and the other gladiators scheduled to fight are lead out of the ludus under heavy guard. You are taken to a public hall, where a great feast has been laid out. The contrast with your daily life is so stark it feels like a hallucination. The room is brightly lit with oil lamps. There are long tables covered in actual linen cloths. And the food is a waking dream. For this one night, the rules are suspended. The barley porridge and the ash water are gone. In their place is a bounty of everything your body has been craving for months. There are platters piled high with roasted meats, pork, beef, wild boar, glistening with fat and seasoned with fragrant herbs. The smell alone is intoxicating, a scent you thought you might never experience again. There are bowls of fresh bread, baked from fine wheat flour. There are cheeses of every variety, fresh fruits like grapes and melons, and pastries dripping with honey. And there is wine, real wine, dark and undiluted, served in proper ceramic cups. You sit down, your movements stiff and awkward, feeling like a wild animal in a nobleman's house. You look at the feast before you, and for a moment, you are paralyzed. You have been fantasizing about this for so long that the reality is overwhelming. Then, you begin to eat. The first bite of roasted pork is a revelation. The rich, savory flavor, the tender texture, the salt. It has an explosion in your mouth. Your senses, deadened by months of blandness, roar back to life. You eat with a ferocity that borders on desperation, tearing into the meat, stuffing your mouth with bread and cheese. You drink the wine in great gulps, its warmth spreading through your chest. But this feast is not a simple act of generosity. Like everything in your life, it serves a purpose, and it is a grim one. The Senile Bear was a public event. Roman citizens could buy tickets to come and watch you eat. They would stand around the hall, observing you. The men who were going to fight and possibly die for their entertainment the next day. They would point out their favorites, comment on your physique, and place bets. You are an exhibit. Your last meal is a part of the spectacle, a morbid appetizer for the main event. This public feast is a subject of much historical interest. Why did they do it? For the promoter of the games, the editor. It was a way to drum up excitement and publicity. It allowed the public to see the combatants up close, to build a connection with them before the fight. For the gladiators, the purpose is more debated. Was it a genuine last wish, a final indulgence before facing death? Or was it a more cynical calculation? Some ancient writers, like the Stoic philosopher Seneca, viewed it with disgust, seeing it as a vulgar display where men gored themselves as if to build up strength for the death they were about to face. You look around at the other gladiators. Some, like you, are eating with a ravenous hunger. Others, particularly the new recruits, are too consumed by fear to eat. They just stare at their plates, their faces pale. A few of the veterans eat with a calm, deliberate detachment, as if it asked just another meal. They have been through this before. They know what is coming. The atmosphere is surreal. The room is filled with the noise of your eating and the low murmur of the spectators. You can feel their eyes on you, their morbid curiosity. It is a deeply unsettling experience. You are being given the greatest pleasure, a magnificent feast, in the most public and dehumanizing way possible. You eat until you can eat no more. Your stomach, unaccustomed to such richness, aching in protest, the wine has made your head spin. As the feast winds down, a sense of grim finality settles over the room. The brief, frantic pleasure of the food gives way to the cold reality of tomorrow. This lavish meal was not a reward. It was a farewell. It was a way for the world to say goodbye to you, to fatten you up for the slaughter. The guards herd you to your feet. As you are led away, back to the temporary cells where you will spend your last night. The taste of honey and wine is on your lips, but it is mixed with the bitter taste of fear. The Senile Bear is over. You have had your last supper. Now, all that is left is the arena. The night after the Senile Bear is a sleepless one. The rich food sits uneasily in your stomach, a churning reminder of the day to come. Your mind races, playing out 100 different scenarios, all of them ending in the hot end of the arena. When the guards finally come to rouse you before dawn, your mouth is dry and your hands are trembling. The bravado you tried to project at the feast has evaporated, leaving only a cold, hard knot of fear. This is it. Game day. You and the other gladiators are led from your holding cells into the bowels of the amphitheater. The air is cool and damp, and smells of stone, sand, and the faint, lingering scent of old blood. It is a labyrinth of dark corridors and waiting rooms, a world beneath a world. The distant, muffled sound of the crowd gathering above is a low, ominous rumble, like a sleeping giant beginning to stir. You are not given a proper breakfast. No one has an appetite anyway. The pre-game jitters, the sheer, gut-wrenching terror of what is about to happen, kills any desire for food. Instead, you might be given a small cup of wine, more for courage than for hydration, or a piece of dry bread that you have to force down your tight throat. The focus is on preparation. You are brought to an arming room, where you are issued your equipment, based on the lawn STS assessment of your skills and physique. You have been designated a THRAX, a Thracian-style fighter. You are handed a small, square shield, or parmulet, and a helmet that covers your entire head, with a distinctive griff in crest. Your weapon is the Sika, a short, curved sword designed to strike around an opponent and test shield. You put on the bronze greaves that protect your shins. The cold, heavy weight of the metal feels both reassuring and terrifying. The food you ate last night, the great feast, now feels like a distant, foolish indulgence. Some part of you wonders if it was a tactical mistake. The heavy, rich meal followed by a sleepless night has left you feeling bloated and slightly ill, not primed for peak athletic performance. This leads to a historical question. Was the sine libera actually detrimental to a gladiator's chances? From a modern sports nutrition perspective, a massive, unfamiliar meal the night before a major event is a terrible idea. It can lead to digestive distress and sluggishness. It is possible the Romans didn't understand this. Or perhaps the psychological and entertainment value of the feast was deemed more important than its physiological drawbacks. As you wait, the sounds from above grow louder. You can hear the roar of tens of thousands of people, a wave of sound that washes over you, vibrating through the stone walls. You try to focus, to calm your breathing, to remember your training. Your doctor, the veteran who drilled you relentlessly, gives you one last piece of advice. Don't look at the crowd. Look at your opponent. See only him. Forget everything else. The pre-game rituals continue. There might be a procession, the pompe, where all the combatants parade around the arena, allowing the crowd to see them in their full, gleaming armor. This is your first glimpse of the vast, sun-drenched space, the sheer scale of the crowd pressing in on all sides. Then you are back in the tunnels, waiting for your turn. There is a theory, though it is difficult to prove, that gladiators might have consumed some sort of energy food or drink just before entering the arena. This wouldn't have been a meal, but perhaps a specific concoction designed for a quick burst of strength or stamina. Maybe something containing honey, or certain herbs believed to enhance performance. This would have been more ritual than substance. A final psychological boost, a last-minute potion to ward off fear and weakness. But for the most part, you are going into the fight of your life on an empty stomach, fueled by little more than nervous energy and the lingering memory of last night test wine. Then you hear your name called. A gate creaks open. flooding the dark tunnel with blinding sunlight. You walk forward, your eyes struggling to adjust. You step out onto the sand. The roar of the crowd hits you like a physical blow. You raise your sword in the traditional salute. You look across the arena and see your opponent. Another man just as terrified as you are. The feast is over. The rituals are done. There is no more food. No more wine. There is only the sun, the sand, and the man you have to kill to survive another day. The moment you step onto the hot end of the arena, the world contracts and expands at the same time. The vast, roaring entity of the crowd, tens of thousands of faces, becomes a blur, a wall of abstract noise. Your world shrinks to the circle of sin you stand on, and the man opposite you. He is you are mellow, heavily armed with a large, rectangular shield, a gladius, and a heavy helmet. He is bigger than you. Your only advantages are your smaller, lighter shield, which allows for more agility, and your curved sika, which can hook around his defenses. The fight begins. The first few moments are a tentative dance, a testing of defenses. You circle each other, your heart hammering against your ribs. All the training, all the drills against the wooden palace, now have to translate into real, life or death action, and you feel it immediately. The limitations of your diet. The months of barley and beans have built your stamina for a long, grinding effort. You can endure, but the initial, explosive burst of energy you need feels just out of reach. Your movements feel heavy. Your feet slightly slow on the sand. The rich food from the scenery barrel last night sits like a stone in your gut. A greasy, unwelcome passenger on this violent journey. Your opponent lunge, his heavy sword swinging. You catch the blow on your small shield. The impact jarring your entire arm. The force is immense. You push back, trying to create space. Your breath coming in ragged gasps. The sun is relentless, beating down on your bronze helmet, which quickly becomes an oven. Sweat streams into your eyes, stinging and blurring your vision. The fight wears on. It is not a flashy, elegant duel from a dime, no. It is a clumsy, brutal, and exhausting struggle. It is a series of short, frantic bursts of action followed by moments of circling. Gasping for air, you manage to land a blow, the tip of your sika scratching across his arm. It is a superficial cut, but the sight of blood, his blood, sends a fresh roar through the crowd. They are here for this. This is the product you are manufacturing. As the minutes tick by, you can feel your energy stores depleting at an alarming rate. The glycogen your body has stored from all that barley is burning up fast. This is the physiological reality of your situation. Your diet has prepared you for endurance, but the sheer, adrenal unfueled stress of mortal combat is a different kind of metabolic demand. You are operating at a deficit. There is a significant historical and scientific discussion here. How long could a fight like this actually last? Popular culture often depicts long, drawn-out battles, but a real, life-or-death struggle is incredibly taxing. Most gladiatorial bouts were, likely, quite short, over in a matter of minutes. A fighter's body, even one as well-conditioned as yours, simply cannot maintain that level of peak exertion for very long. The fight was a race to see who would make a fatal mistake first as exhaustion set in. You feel your legs begin to tremble. Your shoulder feels like it is made of lead. You are making mistakes. Your footwork becoming sloppy. Your mellow season. He presses his advantage, forcing you back with a series of powerful blows. You stumble. It is a small slip, a moment of lost balance. But it is all he needs. He is on you in an instant. You try to bring your shield up. but you ray too slow. His sword finds the gap between your shield and your helmet. You feel a searing, white-hot pain in your shoulder. Strength goes out of your arm, and your seeker falls from your grasp, clattering onto the sand. You are disarmed. You are helpless. You fall to one knee, the wound in your shoulder screaming. The Archaeological stands over you, his sword at your throat. The fight is over. The crowd is on its feet. A deafening roar of judgment. They will decide your fate. You raise your left hand, your index finger extended. The traditional appeal for mercy. The missio. You look up, not at your opponent, but at the editor, the wealthy sponsor of the games, sitting in his special box. He is looking at the crowd, gauging their mood. Will they give a thumbs up for mercy, or a thumbs down for death? Your life, your entire existence, has been reduced to this single, brutal referendum. And as you kneel in the sand, bleeding and exhausted, you know that your diet, your training, all of it, has brought you to this point, but it could not take you any further. You have reached the absolute limit of what your barley-fueled body could do. The roar of the crowd is a confusing, terrifying wave of sound. You can't even make out individual shouts, only the collective will of thousands. You kneel in the sand, the Archaeological sword still resting against your throat, your own life hanging on the whim of a gesture. Then, you see it, the editor of the games, reading the mood of the crowd, gives the signal. Thumbs up. Missio. Mercy. You have fought bravely enough. You have provided a good show. You are a valuable asset, worth patching up to fight another day. The Archaeological withdraws his sword. The tension in your body releases in a great, shuddering gasp. You are alive. Two attendants, hordearii, rush out onto the sand. They help you to your feet, supporting your weight as your legs threaten to buckle. They lead you out of the arena, away from the roaring crowd, back into the cool, dark tunnels beneath the stands. Your destination is the infirmary, the same kind of place run by a medicus like LYC and us back at the ludus. The wound in your shoulder is deep and bleeding profusely. The pain is nauseating, all-consuming fire. You are laid out on a stone slab. The medicus of the arena, a man just as detached and professional as the one you know, gets to work immediately. First, he cleans the wound. He washes it with watered-down wine or vinegar, which acts as a mild antiseptic. The sting is incredible, but you clench your jaw and endure it. Then, he examines the damage. You are lucky. The sword missed the major arteries and bones. It is a clean flesh wound, albeit a very deep one. He begins to stitch the wound closed, his needle moving with practiced skill. This is where the gladiator diet, in a strange way, was thought to aid in recovery. The ancient physicians, including Galen, believed that the clean, plant-based diet of gladiators led to less inflammation and quicker healing. They thought that the rich, hot foods eaten by the general population, particularly meat and wine, promoted putrefaction in wounds. A gladiator's body, being cooler and drier due to his diet, was considered a better canvas for surgery and healing. There is a historical debate on whether this had any real scientific basis. While a healthy diet certainly aids recovery, the specific humoral theories behind it were medically inaccurate. But it was a core belief of Roman sports medicine. After the wound is stitched and bandaged, the question of your recovery diet arises. You are weak from blood loss and exhaustion. Your body desperately needs nutrients to repair the damage. But you will not be given rich, restorative broths or strength-building meats. Your recovery diet will be a modified version of the same old regimen. You are given thin barley gruel, easy to digest. You might receive a decoction of herbs believed to have healing properties, and you will almost certainly be given a stronger dose of the calcium-rich ashtrate, as the Romans believed it helped not just with bones, but with staunching blood flow and promoting the knitting of flesh. Your body is screaming for protein and iron, but it will have to make do with the meager offerings of the standard gladiator fare. Here is a small, grim detail about gladiatorial medicine. They were masters of treating trauma, but had little defense against infection, even with the use of wine and vinegar as antiseptics. Post-operative infection was the biggest killer of wounded gladiators. A perfectly stitched wound could begin to fester a few days later. The medicus would try to treat it with poultices and further cleaning. But if a serious infection took hold, there were no antibiotics. The gladiator would develop a fever. The wound would turn black, and a slow, agonizing death was almost certain. Your survival depends as much on luck and the strength of your own immune system as it does on the surgeon's skill. For the next several days, you lie in the infirmary, drifting in and out of a feverish state. Your world is reduced to the throbbing pain in your shoulder and the arrival of your bowl of thin, watery blood. It has a miserable existence, but you are alive. You have survived. You see other men in the infirmary who were not so lucky. Men with deeper wounds. Men with infections. Their groans filling the small room. You slowly begin to heal. The fever breaks. The pain in your shoulder subsides to a dull ache. The medicus declares that you will recover. You will have another scar to add to your collection. A permanent reminder of your first dance with death. And as you regain your strength, your diet slowly returns to normal. The watery gruel is replaced by the familiar, thick barley and bean mush. You are being rebuilt, refueled, patched up for the next time the honest A decides to put you on the schedule. You have survived the arena, and now you must survive the recovery. All on the same terrible food that got you here in the first place. Weeks later, your shoulder has healed into a thick, ugly scar. You are back in the ludus, back to the relentless rhythm of training. You are different now. You are no longer a raw recruit, hetero. You are a veteran of the arena. You have faced death and been granted missio. This grants you a new, subtle level of respect among your peers. You have proven you have what it takes to survive. But what is your reward for this survival? What grand prize awaits the man who walks out of the arena alive? The answer is profoundly anticlimactic. Your prize is this. You get to continue living in the ludus. You get to continue the brutal training. And you get to continue eating the same terrible food. There is no victory feast for those granted mercy. There is no special treatment. No period of rest and recuperation with fine foods. The honest AS logic is cold and brutally simple. You did not win. You survived. Winning means being the last man standing. A feat that earns a specific prize. Survival is just the fulfillment of your basic duty. You have proven to be a durable investment. And now you must be prepared for your next outing. The machine of the ludus grinds on, and you are right back in it. So you return to the mess hall, to the same backless bench and the same wooden bowl. You are served the same ladle, FUL of barley and bean porridge. It tastes exactly the same as it did before your fight. Nothing has changed. This is a powerful psychological blow. The entire experience of the arena, the terror, the violence, the near-death experience, has resulted in absolutely no change to your daily material existence. It reinforces the grim reality of your life. You are a tool, and a tool is not rewarded for simply not breaking. This lack of reward for non-victorious survival is a key aspect of the gladiatorial system. It created a powerful incentive to not just survive, but to win decisively. A gladiator who consistently won his matches could achieve fame, status, and actual, tangible rewards. But a gladiator who just scraped by, who often needed to be spared by the crowd, was a less valuable commodity. The honest day wanted killers, not just survivors. Let us talk about what victory actually meant. If you had defeated your opponent and the crowd had called for his death, you would have been the undisputed winner. The prize for victory, the poma, was often a literal pomfran, a symbolic token. More importantly, it often came with a sum of money, part of which went to your honest day and part of which you might be allowed to keep. A successful gladiator could, over time, accumulate a small personal fortune, which he might use to buy comforts within the ludus or to, hopefully, one day, buy his freedom. But what about food? Would a victorious gladiator be treated to a feast? The historical sources are hazy on this. It is likely that a major victory would be celebrated, and this celebration might involve better food and wine. But it would have been a temporary, one-time event, not a permanent change in diet. The core nutritional philosophy of the ludus would remain in place. The medicus would never allow his prized champion to ruin his physique with a rich, long-term diet. The spoils of victory worth aim and money, not a permanent seat at the honest dinner table. The debate among historians is about the frequency and scale of these rewards. Were they common, or were they a once-in-a-career event for only the most legendary fighters? Here is a small, telling detail about the glory of victory. Even after a win, a gladiator remained a slave. He remained an infamies, a person of low legal and social standing, on par with actors and prostitutes. He could be famous, but he was never truly respected in the eyes of Roman law and polite society. His victories brought him prize money, but they did not bring him honor in the traditional Roman sense. So, as you sit there, eating your barley mush, the scar on your shoulder a dull ache, you are trapped in a strange limbo. You are more experienced, more valuable than the raw recruits around you. You have survived the ultimate test, but your reward is simply the continuation of the life you were living before. The only path to anything better, to any tangible change, is to go back into the arena and not just survive, but kill. The system is designed to push you towards greater violence. Mercy, you learn, keeps you on the same endless loop. Victory is the only way to change the rhythm of your life. The bland, repetitive taste of the barley porridge is a constant, daily reminder of this fact. It is the taste of survival, not success. And you find yourself craving success with a hunger that is even deeper than your craving for real food. The ludus is a place of constant, simmering violence, but it is also a community of sorts. You live, eat, and train with the same men every day. You are rivals, but you are also brothers in a shared, grim ordeal. You know each other as strengths, weaknesses, and fears. And sometimes, one of you doesn't come back. This time, it is the Thracian who was your first cellmate. He was a quiet, grim man, a veteran of a dozen fights. He was sent to the games in a provincial town, a smaller, less prestigious event. The news comes back to the ludus not by official decree, but through the grapevine of guards and slaves. He fought well, but he was overwhelmed. The crowd gave the thumbs down. He is dead. The death of a comrade sends a ripple of cold silence through the barracks. It is a stark reminder of the fate that awaits you all. But his death is not unmarked. The one is Jay, for all his cold-hearted business sense, understands the importance of morale. and the other gladiators, your brothers, deserve to say goodbye. That evening, a funeral feast is held. This is another of the rare, surreal occasions when the normal rules of the diet are suspended. A funeral feast for a fallen gladiator was a tradition, a way to honor the dead, and, perhaps more importantly, to appease the living. It was a necessary release valve for the tension and grief within the school. A space is cleared in the yard. Torches are lit, casting flickering shadows against the walls. A long table is set up, and once again, you are presented with real food. It is not as lavish as the seemly bira, but compared to your daily fare, it is a banquet fit for a king. There is roasted meat, perhaps goat or mutton. There is good bread, cheese, oats, and, most importantly, plenty of unwatered wine. The mood is somber, but not entirely mournful. There is a sense of defiant celebration. You are honoring a fallen warrior, but you are also celebrating your own survival. You eat and drink, sharing stories about the Trajan. You recall his skill with the Sika, his quiet endurance, his stubborn pride. You toast to his memory, raising your cups to the gods of the underworld, praying for his safe passage. This practice is part of a broader Roman tradition of funerary meals, or Cernaiuin, held at the tomb of the deceased, for gladiators, who were part of professional guilds or collegiae. These organizations would often pay for the funeral and the accompanying feast. It was a way of ensuring that a man who died far from home, without a family, would still receive the proper rites. It was a guarantee of a dignified end. There is a historical debate about the true purpose of these feasts. Were they purely about honoring the dead and maintaining morale? Or did they also serve a more superstitious purpose? The Romans had a deep-seated belief that the spirits of the dead, especially those who died violently, could become restless and malevolent. A proper funeral, complete with offerings of food and wine, was essential to appease the spirit and ensure it did not come back to haunt the living. For a lawnist, overseeing a school full of men who dealt in violent death, keeping the ghosts at bay would have been a very real concern. Here is a peculiar detail related to this. Sometimes, the gladiators themselves would save up their prize money to contribute to a burial fund. They would pay dues to their collegium to ensure that, should they fall, their brothers would give them a proper send-off, including a monument and a funeral feast. It was a form of life insurance that paid out after you were dead, guaranteeing you a legacy and a final moment of respect. As the night wears on, the wine flows freely. The somber mood gives way to a louder, more boisterous energy. The feast becomes a temporary escape from the grim reality of your lives. For these few hours, you are not just slaves and prisoners. You are comrades, sharing a meal, honoring a friend. But the morning will come. The wine will wear off, leaving you with a headache. The memory of the roasted meat will fade, and you will be back in the training yard, back to the barley and the ash water. The feast is not a change. It is an interruption. A brief, poignant pause in the endless grind. You look around at the faces of your comrades, illuminated by the torchlight. You know that the next funeral feast could be for any one of them, or it could be for you. The food is delicious. The wine is strong, but every bite is tinged with the taste of mortality. It is the best meal you've had in months, and it is also the saddest. Years have passed in the blur of training and fighting. You are no longer the frightened recruit. You are no longer just a survivor. You are a champion. You are the primus palace of the ludus. Your name is chanted by the crowds. Your image is scratched into the walls of public buildings by admirers. You have achieved the pinnacle of what a gladiator can be. You are a star. Your life has changed in significant ways. You now have a private cell, a small luxury that feels like a palace after years of sharing a cramped space. You have a better quality mattress. You are a doctor, a trainer for the new recruits. Your experience now a valuable commodity for the Lonistay, and you have money. Your winnings from the arena have accumulated into a small fortune, kept for you by the Lonistay. You can use it to buy small comforts, to bribe a guard for a favor, to feel, in some small way, like a man of means. But what about your diet? Surely, as a celebrated champion, the undisputed star of the school, you have graduated from the bland world of barley mush. Surely, you now dine at the Lonistay stable, feasting on roasted peacock and fine wine. The reality is deeply disappointing. Your officially sanctioned diet remains, for the most part, stubbornly and maddeningly the same. You still start your day with barley porridge. Your midday meal is still a thick stew of beans and grains. The reasoning of the medicus, Lycanus, is inflexible. The diet, the ardus, is what made you a champion. It built your endurance. It created the fleshy, resilient body that has allowed you to survive wounds that would have killed lesser men. To change the formula now would be to risk everything. It would make you slow, weak, and vulnerable. The system works. Why would it change it? This is a core, frustrating truth of your new status. You have achieved stardom, but you are still subject to the same rigid, scientific, and joyless dietary regimen. The logic of the ludus is absolute. You are, first and foremost, a high-value athletic investment, and the health and performance of that investment are paramount. Your personal desires, your craving for a good meal, are irrelevant to the calculation. However, your stardom does grant you certain unofficial perks. Your status as a trainer gives you more freedom of movement within the compound. You have more opportunities to interact with the kitchen staff. The head cook, who once would have had you flogged for looking at a loaf of bread the wrong way, now treats you with a grudging respect. He might slip you a piece of leftover meat from the lawn, his stable, or a pastry saved from the guard's meal. These are no longer stolen scraps. They are offerings, tokens of your elevated status. The historical evidence for the diet of star gladiators is, as with many details, a matter of interpretation. While the skeletal evidence suggests the core diet remained plant-based for all, it cannot account for these small, unofficial supplements. It is highly probable that star gladiators used their status and wealth to improve their diet through these back channels. The question is one of degree. Was it a daily occurrence, or a rare treat? Did it significantly alter their nutritional intake, or was it just a minor psychological boost? The consensus leans towards the latter. The foundation of their diet remained the institutional barley. Here is another way your fame impacts your food. The Sinoli Bera. The Last Supper before the games is a different experience for you now. You are the main attraction. The spectators crowd around your table, eager to get a look at the famous champion. They offer you toasts. They ask for your autograph or your mark. If you are illiterate, you are no longer a terrified, anonymous condemned man. You are a celebrity. But the purpose of the meal remains the same. It is still a public spectacle, a prelude to potential death. In fact, the pressure on you is even greater. A champion is expected to provide a spectacular fight. The greatest change, however, comes from outside the walls of the ludus. Your fame has reached the city. You have admirers, and some of them are wealthy, powerful, and very, very interested in you. This opens up a new, and incredibly dangerous, avenue for culinary indulgence. The life of a star is more comfortable, But you learn that the gilded cage is still a cage. The diet that made you a champion is the same diet you are stuck with. A constant, bland reminder that no matter how loud the crowd cheers your name, you are still, and always, the property of the law and his stay. Your fame has a strange and intoxicating effect. You are a slave, and infamous, but you are also a public icon, a symbol of masculine strength and courage. This paradox attracts a particular kind of attention. You start to receive messages, delivered secretly through a bribed guard. They are from wealthy Roman matrons, the wives and widows of senators and businessmen. They are your admirers. Your group is, and they offer a temptation that is far more potent and far more dangerous than a stolen piece of fruit. These women are fascinated by the raw, brutal masculinity you represent, a stark contrast to their perfume, sophisticated, and often effete husbands. To them, you are a forbidden thrill. An affair with a famous gladiator was the ultimate transgression, a dangerous and exciting secret, and the primary way they try to gain your favor, to initiate this forbidden contact, is through food. A guard will approach you, his eyes shifting nervously, and press a small, cloth-wrapped bundle into your hand. From an admirer, he'll mutter, before hurrying away. You unwrap it later, in the privacy of your cell. Inside might be a portion of a feast from a noble house, a piece of honey-glazed dormouse, a delicacy you've only ever heard of. Or it might be a small flask of exquisite, aged and wine, so different from the rough stuff in the ludus that it feels like a different beverage entirely. It could be candied fruits, rich pastries, or a piece of meat so tender it melts in your mouth. This is not just food. This is a message. It is a display of wealth and access. It is an invitation. And it presents you with a terrible dilemma. To accept the gift is to enter into a dangerous, secret relationship. The food is just the first step. The admirer will want more. She will want a clandestine meeting, a secret tryst. This is incredibly risky. If the Lorniste finds out, his anger will be fearsome. You are his property, and he will not tolerate his prized investment being risked for the thrill of a bored noble woman. He could have you fall, or worse, he could deliberately put you in a no-win match in the arena as punishment. If the woman's husband finds out, the consequences could be even deadlier. A powerful man whose honor has been slighted by a mere gladiator would not hesitate to arrange a fatal accident for you. But to refuse the gift is also risky. A powerful woman scorned can be a dangerous enemy. She could use her influence to turn the crowd against you in your next fight, or spread rumors that could damage your reputation. You are walking a tightrope. This phenomenon of wealthy female admirers, or gladiator groupies, is well attested in the ancient sources. The writer Juvenal, in his satires, famously mocked a senatoress wife named Depie, who ran off to Egypt with her gladiator lover, abandoning her family and reputation for a man of the sword. This was seen as the height of scandalous behavior. There is a historical debate about how common these affairs really were. Were they a frequent occurrence, a regular part of a star gladiatoress life, or were they rare, sensational events that were written about precisely because they were so shocking? It is impossible to know for sure, but the fact that it was a known stereotype suggests it happened often enough to become a part of the cultural landscape. And what about the food itself? Beyond the pleasure, there was another, stranger belief attached to it. Some Romans believed that the sweat and blood of a gladiator had powerful properties. It was used in cosmetics and potions. Similarly, food touched by a famous gladiator, or given as a gift from one, was sometimes thought to act as an aphrodisiac or a good luck charm. The food being smuggled to you is not just a bribe. It is part of a strange, superstitious exchange of vitality and power. You eat the honey-glazed dormouse in the darkness. The rich, sweet, and fatty taste a shocking intrusion into your disciplined world. It has a taste of luxury, of danger, of a world of intrigue that exists just outside your prison walls. The pleasure is immense, but it is followed by a cold wave of anxiety. This one small meal has entangled you in a web of secrets and obligations. It has complicated your life in a way that a simple bowl of barley never could. You realize that the bland, monotonous diet of the ludus, for all its misery, is also a source of simplicity. It keeps you focused. It keeps you safe from these kinds of entanglements. The rich, delicious food from your admirer is a poison of a different sort. It awakens desires and creates risks that you cannot control. The world of barley is a prison, but in some ways, it is a simple one. The world of secret feasts and noble lovers is a gilded cage, and the bars are just as strong. You are standing in the center of the arena, the roar of the crowd washing over you. But this time, it is different. You are not a young recruit facing your first fight. You are not a wounded survivor appealing for mercy. You are a champion, a living legend, and you have just won yet another spectacular victory. The editor of the games is on his feet, applauding. The honest is beaming, his prize investment having paid off once again. And then, it happens, the moment every gladiator dreams of, the moment that is more myth than reality for most. The editor gestures, and an attendant approaches you. He is not carrying a Victor-S palm or a purse of gold. He is carrying a simple, unadorned wooden sword. The roadies. A hush falls over the crowd. They know what this means. The roadies is the symbol of freedom. It is a discharge from service. By accepting this wooden sword, you are no longer a gladiator. You are a free man. The attendant hands it to you. The wood is smooth and light in your hand, a shocking contrast to the heavy, lethal weapons you have wielded for years. You hold it up to the crowd, and the amphitheater erupts in a deafening roar of approval. They have witnessed something special. They have seen a man fight his way out of bondage, earning his liberty with his own sweat and blood. You walk out of the arena for the last time, not as a slave being herded through a tunnel, but as a free man walking out the main gate. The rudies is clutched in your hand. It is your most prized possession. It is your proof of life. This discharge, the granting of the rudies, was the ultimate prize, the jackpot for a gladiator. It was, however, exceedingly rare. Ill honesty would not give up his most valuable, crowd-pleasing champion easily. It usually happened only after a long and distinguished career, when a gladiator was perhaps getting too old to fight at a peak level, but was too famous to be simply retired or killed off. Granting him freedom was a way for the honest to cash in on his fame one last time. A grand, crowd-pleasing gesture. The historical debate here centers on what freedom truly meant. Were you completely free, able to go anywhere and do anything? Or were you a libertus, a freedman, still bound by certain obligations to your former master? The honest who is now your patron. The latter is more likely. Your freedom was probably conditional, but you were no longer a slave. You could not be forced to fight again. And with that freedom comes the thing you have dreamed of for years. The thing that has motivated you through every grueling training session and every bowl of gray mush. The freedom to eat whatever you want. That night, you walk into a proper Roman calpane, an inn with a real restaurant. You are a man of some wealth now. Your accumulated prize money your own to spend. You sit at a table, a free man. The proprietor brings you a menu, not a bowl of slop. You read the choices. Your heart pounding, roasted duck, stewed rabbit with figs, gar braised lentils with real seasoning, sausages, fresh bread with honey. The possibilities are overwhelming. You order a feast. You order everything. You want to taste it all, to make up for years of deprivation. And as the food arrives, platter after platter, you feel a sense of triumph that is even greater than what you felt in the arena. This is the true spoil of victory. You take your first bite of roasted duck. It's fatty, crispy skin crackling in your mouth. It is the taste of freedom. It is rich. It is decadent. And it is yours by right. You have earned this. Every scar on your body, every ghost of a fallen opponent, has led you to this moment, to this meal. As you eat, you think of your long journey. You think of the stale bread in the prison cart. You think of the endless, lumpy barley porridge. You think of the bitter ash water. You think of the stolen figs and the secret, smuggled egg. Each of those joyless meals was a step on the path to this one. The wooden sword, the rudies, lies on the table next to you. It is a symbol of your violent past, but it is also the key to your delicious, peaceful future. You have survived the world of barley and beans. Now, a world of flavor awaits. You take another bite of duck, and for the first time in as long as you can remember, you eat not just to survive, but for the pure, unadulterated joy of it. The first few weeks of freed are a whirlwind of sensory indulgence. You eat. You explore every food stall in the market, every tavern, every inn. You sample dishes you had only ever dreamed of. You rediscover the simple, profound joy of salt, of sugar, of fat, of spice. The world, which had been rendered in shades of gray by the ludus diet, is now a vibrant, flavorful tapestry. You buy yourself new clothes, the fine linen tunics of a respectable citizen, not the coarse wool of a slave. You find lodging in a clean, quiet room, a world away from the stench and noise of the barracks. You are, for the first time, the master of your own days. But freedom, you quickly learn, is more complicated than you imagined, and your newfound dietary liberty comes with its own set of challenges. Your body, meticulously engineered by the ludus for a specific, Spartan regimen, is not prepared for this onslaught of rich food. After years of subsisting on a low-fat, high-fiber diet, your digestive system struggles to process the sudden influx of meat, fat, and refined flour. You suffer from stomach aches, indigestion. The very foods you craved for so long now often leave you feeling bloated until your body, trained for deprivation, is rebelling against abundance. It has a cruel irony. You finally have access to all the food you could want, but your body can no longer handle it with ease. Then there is the financial reality. The prize money that seemed like a vast fortune in the ludus begins to dwindle at an alarming rate in the real world. Good food is expensive. A room at a decent inn is expensive. The life of a free citizen has cost you never had to consider. You are no longer provided for. Every meal, every cup of wine, must be paid for out of your own pocket. Your savings are not infinite. You realize you cannot afford to feast every night. You are faced with a difficult choice. What does a freed gladiator do for a living? Your name and your rudies give you a certain celebrity status, but your skill set is limited. You know how to fight. You know how to kill. These are not skills that are easily transferable to civilian life in a peaceful city. Some freed gladiators, you learn, become bodyguards for wealthy politicians or merchants. putting their combat skills to use in a different context. Others, especially those with a high rank like yourself, might be hired by a loniste, perhaps even your old one, as a freelance trainer. A doctor, paid a proper wage this time. A few might open their own fencing or wrestling schools. But many others struggle. They drift, their fame fading, their money running out, eventually taking on menial labor jobs, their glorious past a bitter memory. There is a historical debate about the fate of retired gladiators. The romantic view is that they lived out their days in comfort and respect. The more cynical, and probably more realistic, view is that many found life outside the structured world of the ludus to be incredibly difficult. They were institutionalized, trained for a single purpose, and often ill-equipped for the complexities of freedom. You find yourself moderating your diet out of necessity. The daily feasts give way to more modest meals. You find a new appreciation for the simple, hearty food of the common Roman citizen. Bread, cheese, olives, a thick vegetable stew. It is a middle ground between the lavish feasts you indulged in and the grim austerity of the ludus. You learn to cook for yourself, finding a small satisfaction in preparing your own simple meals. A basic act of self-sufficiency you were denied for years. Here is a small, poignant detail about your new life. You occasionally find yourself, out of pure habit, craving the blandness of barley. Your body, after so many years, has become accustomed to it. A simple bowl of porridge can sometimes feel more comforting and familiar than a rich, complicated dish. The taste of your captivity has become, in a strange way, the taste of a former home. Your freedom is not the simple paradise you envision. It is a complex, challenging reality. You have escaped the physical prison of the ludus, but you are still grappling with its legacy. A legacy that is etched into your body's very chemistry. You have the freedom to eat whatever you want, but you are now constrained by a new set of walls. The limits of your own digestion and the size of your purse. Your journey into the world of food is far from over. It has simply entered a new and more complicated chapter. You are sitting on a stool in the sun, outside the small room you now rent. You are not an old man by the standards of the free world, perhaps only in your late 30s or early 40s, but you feel ancient. The years of living as a gladiator have taken a profound and irreversible toll on your body, a debt that is now coming due. The price of your former life is written all over you. Your body is a tapestry of scars, each one a memory of a close call in the arena. Your shoulder still aches on cold mornings from that first fight. Your left knee, injured by a mace in a later bout, clicks and grinds with every step. You suffer from arthritis. Your joints inflamed and stiff from a lifetime of extreme physical stress and poorly healed microrhomas. Simply getting out of bed in the morning can be an act of painful determination. But the most insidious damage is on the inside, a direct result of the terrible diet and extreme lifestyle you endured. The years of a low-quality, abrasive diet, followed by your struggles to adapt to richer food, have left you with chronic digestive problems. Your teeth, or what is left of them, are a constant source of low-grade pain. You have to eat slowly, carefully, avoiding anything too hard or chewy. The simple pleasure of a crusty loaf of bread is something you can no longer enjoy. This is the grim reality for many who survived the arena. The long-term health consequences were severe. Modern medical analysis of gladiator skeletons supports this. The bones show evidence of extreme physical stress, healed fractures, and severe joint degeneration, while the medicus of the ludus was skilled at patching up acute, life-threatening injuries. There was little understanding of or concern for long-term, chronic health. The goal was to get a fighter back into the arena, not to ensure he had a comfortable old age. A gladiator-esque career was expected to be short. No one planned for retirement. The high-carb, low-protein diet, while functional for the arena, may have had other long-term consequences. There is a modern medical debate about the effects of such a diet. Some studies suggest that long-term, high-carbohydrate diets can contribute to chronic inflammation, which exacerbates conditions like arthritis. The very diet that was supposed to protect you in the short term may have been slowly poisoning you in the long term. This is a topic where modern science can only speculate, but it paints a grim picture of the physical legacy of the hordearii. You look at your hands. They are gnarled and thick-knuckled, the hands of a fighter. They are strong, but they are also clumsy now. The fine motor skills are gone. Lost 2 years of gripping a heavy sword and absorbing jarring impacts on a shield. Then there is the psychological price. You still have nightmares. You wake up in a cold sweat, the phantom roar of the crowd in your ears, the glint of a sword in your mind's eye. You are free, but the arena is still inside you. You find it hard to connect with ordinary people. Their concerns, the price of olives, a dispute with a neighbor, seem trivial compared to the life and death struggles that were your daily reality. You are a man apart, marked by an experience that no one else can understand. You have found a measure of peace. You work as a trainer at a local wrestling school, teaching young boys the fundamentals of grappling. It is quiet work. It gives you a sense of purpose. But every time you see a young, strong body, full of hope and ambition, you feel a pang of sadness. You see yourself, all those years ago, before the ludus, before the barley, before the scars. Your relationship with food remains complicated. You eat simply now, out of both financial necessity and physical need. Your diet consists mostly of soft bread, vegetable stews, and a little cheese. It is a quiet, unremarkable diet, but sometimes, on a festival day, you will allow yourself a small luxury, a piece of roasted fish, or a single pastry from a baker's stall. You eat it slowly, savoring the taste, a quiet acknowledgement of the freedom you fought so hard to win. But the pleasure is always tinged with a shadow of the past. Food, for you, will never be just food. It is tangled up with memories of deprivation, of fear, of survival. It is the taste of your imprisonment and the taste of your liberation. The body of a gladiator is a high-price item, bought by the honesty and paid for, over and over again, by the man who has to live in it. You are sitting on a stone bench overlooking the city, the rubies resting on your lap. The wooden sword is worn smooth from years of being handled, its surface holding the oil and sweat of your own skin. It is your constant companion, a tangible link to a life that feels like it belonged to another man. From this vantage point, you can see the great amphitheater in the distance, a stone circle of memory. The setting sun catches its upper arches, making it glow like a crown of fire. Your life has been a long, strange journey, and you find yourself measuring it out not in years or in victories, but in meals. Your memory is a catalog of tastes and textures, each one marking a different chapter of your existence. You remember the taste of roasted pork and cheap wine from that last night of freedom in the Tabura. It was the taste of youthful ignorance, of a future you thought was certain. It was the flavor of a life that was about to be stolen from you. Then came the long, gray expanse of the ludus. This part of your life has only one flavor, the bland, earthy, slightly gritty taste of barley. For years, every single day was defined by that same taste. It was the taste of despair, of imprisonment, of your own subjugation. It was the taste of a body being systematically broken down and rebuilt for a singular, brutal purpose. You can still feel its lumpy texture in your mind, the way it coated your tongue. It was the flavor of survival, but not of life. Within that gray sea of barley, there were tiny, brilliant islands of flavor. The sharp, salty explosion of the gar in your evening muff. The bitter, tacky grit of the ash water. A medicinal taste that promised to hold your very bones together. The shocking, illicit sweetness of a stolen fig. Its flavor amplified by the danger of its acquisition. The clean, savory perfection of a hard-boiled egg, eaten in secret in the dark. These were not just tastes. They were acts of rebellion, moments of reclaimed humanity in a world designed to strip you of it. You remember the overwhelming, almost violent sensuous oath of the Sinali Bera, the taste of rich, fatty meat and real, undiluted wine after years of deprivation. It was the flavor of morbid spectacle, of a feast laid out before a man condemned to die. The pleasure was immense, but it was a poisoned pleasure, tainted by the fear of the morning to come. And then, the taste of freedom. That first meal in the bonnet, the roasted duck, the honeyed pastries. That was the taste of triumph. A flavor so intense and profound it was almost painful. It was the culmination of every drop of sweat, every scar, every moment of terror. It was the taste of a life won back from the edge of the abyss. Now, in your later years, your life has a new flavor. It is the simple, honest taste of vegetables to that you cooked yourself. It is the mild flavor of goat cheese on a piece of soft bread. It is a quiet, gentle taste. It has the flavor of peace, of acceptance. It lacks the intense highs and lows of your past. And for that, you are deeply grateful. The historical debate about the gladiator diet will likely continue forever. Was it a sophisticated piece of sports science or accrued to love economic and psychological control? Was it healthy or harmful? For the academics, it is a fascinating puzzle to be solved with bone analysis and textual criticism. But for you, it was not a theory. It was your life. You, the hordearii, the barley-eater, were forged in that crucible of deprivation. The bland, terrible food was both your punishment and your shield. It fueled your victories and defined your suffering. It was the engine of a brutal industry and the source of your most intimate, secret rebellions. You looked down at the rudies in your lap, a wooden sword, a symbol of your release from a world of steel. You think of all the meals you have eaten, from the stale bread in the cart to the feast of freedom. Your entire epic, your life story, could be told through the food you were, and were not, allowed to eat. You get up slowly, your old bones aching, and begin the slow walk home, ready for your simple evening meal. A bowl of soup, a piece of bread. It is not a feast. It is not a punishment. It is just dinner. And it is enough. The sun has fully set now, leaving behind a sky the color of a fading bruise, soft purples and deep indigos. The city below grows quiet. The story of the gladiator, of his hard-won peace, has come to its end. He has found his rest. And now it is time for you to find yours. Let go of the day. Allow the memory of the roaring crowd and the clashing of steel to fade into a gentle, distant hum. Feel the weight of your own body sinking into your bed. A welcome and comforting anchor after a long journey. The concerns that occupied your mind today can be set aside, placed on a shelf just as our gladiator placed his rudies on his simple table. They will be there tomorrow. They do not need to follow you into the quiet lands of sleep. Imagine the taste of a simple, clean cup of cool water, a thirst of peace, of clarity. Let it wash away any lingering bitterness or anxiety. Your breathing slows. finding a deep and easy rhythm, like the gentle tide of a calm sea. Each breath out carries away a little more of the world, and each breath brings a deeper sense of tranquility. There are no more battles to be fought tonight. There is no more striving. There is only the soft darkness, the comfortable silence, and the promise of deep, restorative sleep. Allow yourself to drift. The end of the article. Good night.